Today we're going to be taking a look at some more Total War Warhammer 3 preview battle footage provided by Creative Assembly, this time KHORNE versus TZEENTCH. Typical caveats before we get started: this is obviously a development in progress game. Things are not totally 100% finalized, especially like unit balancing and so forth is subject to change. Second caveat, this is played by just a regular bloke from CA, not some MLG multiplayer god, so honestly, probably a little bit closer to what your typical Total War Warhammer player would be. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. As the replay starts here, we'll take a look at the army composition. We've got an Exalted Bloodthirster, Blood Reaper on the Blood Shrine, a regular Bloodthirster, a KHORNE Grinder, one unit of Skull Crushers, unit of KHORNE Minotaurs, 3 Exalted Bloodletters, a Gorby's Chariot, 2... not Hell Cannons, what are they? Skull Cannons, that's right. 1 Angry Spawn, 2 Warriors of KHORNE with dual weapons, 2 Warriors of KHORNE with halberds, and 3 Flesh Hounds. As they're getting kind of deployed there, you can see that the range of those Skull Cannons is quite long. Going to set up Cavalry and Hounds out on one flank, 2 Hounds and the Chariot out on the other flank. Flying Bloodthirsters kind of holding the center formation again on each flank. For the TZEENTCH forces, we'll take a look at here in just a moment after these boys start moving up. There's actually Kairos Fate Weaver leading the way once again. We've got a Lord of Change as well. There you see them. We've got Iridescent Horror on the Burning Chariot, 2 units of Doom Knights, bunch of pink and blue horrors, couple of blue spawn as well, TZEENTCH spawn. And 2 Tzeentchian Soul Grinders, I believe. So the Hounds, Cavalry Chariot's going to be taking up a nice flank position. Looks like the Chariots actually might charge straight into the center there. This is one matchup that I think will be probably favorable for KHORNE, just because with TZEENTCH you definitely want to get value from those flying units. You can see there the Soul Grinders almost looks like they have like a cannon attack for TZEENTCH. Rather than some kind of eldritch energy, which is, I guess, more of what I was expecting. But lots of fire being thrown in there. You can see TZEENTCH, both Kairos and Lord of Change jump down onto the KHORNE Grinder. Meanwhile, the Cavalry and Doggos out on the flanks there. Chariot, let's look at its HP. Should be doing okay in that frontline engagement. Yeah, looks like it's blending up the horrors and such just fine. Skull Crushers don't get the greatest charge, but they still should be able to grind through those spawn there. Frontline engagement definitely going to go heavily in favor of KHORNE, as you would expect. The Horrors not really able to use up too much of their ammunition. There's also some Forsaken mixed in there. You can see their barrier gets eaten up very quickly against those KHORNE units. But the Exalted Bloodthirster definitely getting hammered by fire in the center. Good to see the AI focusing that priority target. But it's now going to move in and fight Kairos up in the air there. Meanwhile, yeah, the other Bloodthirster just kind of hanging around a little bit. The Soul Grinder, KHORNE Grinder manages to hold firm. Looks like the Skull Cannons are going to be shooting in there. Nice bombardment, army ability from TZEENTCH. You can see the army ability for KHORNE charging up on the side there. So hopefully we'll get to see some of those in action. As expected, the blue spawn getting eaten up by those Skull Crushers. Skull Crushers are going to be insanely strong cavalry in it. Bloodthirster drops down to take on one of the TZEENTCH Grinders. The good Doggos are going to move in on a flank attack on both. Nice rear charge there, and it looks like there's the augment. Even though those Bloodthirsters and Warriors of KHORNE probably already have more than enough melee attack to absolutely wallop those poor horrors. It is, just no kill like overkill, right? Especially for KHORNE. But love these animations. Really, really cool looking. And the Soul Grinder, the Bloodthirster really hasn't done much, just been getting absolutely hammered, but does drop down, gets the explosion there. You can see it immediately drops the barrier off of the TZEENTCH units. I know a lot of people on my previous videos have been commenting they were a little bit worried that the TZEENTCH barrier would be OP. I definitely think it's going to be relatively well balanced. It does seem like it doesn't actually absorb all that much damage, like a few hundred at best, maybe like 300, 400, depending on the unit, but something else to note here is you can see the Skull Cannons just firing away. Big Bird getting owned by the Soul Grinder there. Soul Grinder slaps him back and then, blasts him in the face. But I was going to say, you see how the Skull Cannon is just holding perfectly fine against Kairos? because of its, regenerating in melee ability, the fact that its Kairos really isn't that great of a combatant, it's actually just straight up trading evenly with him right now, so I do think Skull Cannon is going to be one of the tougher artillery chariots to actually shut down effectively, and it will be able to hold out against weaker single entities. I don't know, I'd be curious to test it out against something like a Manticore. Manticore probably beats it, because, Manticores are insanely strong for their cost, but I don't know, maybe it could actually hold out pretty well against them. Again, Kairos really not doing much there. And keep in mind that Kairos also is just charging up the ammunition as well, but Bloodthirster's still alive. He's going to now go after the Burning Chariot up in the air. The Chariot can shoot 360, I think, so he's got to be careful. Might get taken down, but at this point, the Tzeentch forces are looking very thin. Minotaurs with great weapons moving in to help finish off Kairos. Everything else is pretty much routed or whatever it's called, disintegrated. I do have to say, I haven't really mentioned this in any of my other videos, but I love the Tzeentchian magic effects, the sort of little swirly, like, change magic. I don't know why. It just looks so fitting somehow. Like these funny little swirly patterns that sort of go off in the various explosions and whatnot. Looks very, very cool. The Tzeentch magic, like right there, you can see some big ones in that breath attack spell. Very cool stuff. Minotaur still, the Skull Cannon's animation, you see it just do a full-on 360 there. That was awesome. The KHORNE, honestly, Tzeentch is still probably going to be my #1 go-to demon faction. But KHORNE probably will actually be #2. I thought Nurgle might be #2, but I have to say, like, the KHORNE, like, motorcycle units, the sound effects for them, the, sort of the animations are hilariously awesome. It seems like they're having a great time, to be honest. So, yeah, KHORNE will probably be my #2 demon faction, if I'm being completely real. And they do prevail over the forces of Tzeentch. Relatively quick victory. Again, something you would somewhat expect if KHORNE's able to just get a heads-up engagement against Tzeentch, or just about anyone, I would think. They're going to absolutely demolish them. Some people have been talking a little bit about how, like, chaff-centric factions, especially vampire counts, because they don't have any option except to fight in melee, right? And the spell resistance on a number of units will help against, like, Mortis-style drain effects, Scav Scrath, various ways that vampire counts have of dealing with infantry units. They're just going to die, I think, against KHORNE. Likewise, any faction that relies a lot on shooting, I think, is going to be tricky. If you can concentrate enough volume of fire to take out KHORNE before they can get close and get the damage done, then there's that. But if you are a faction that has to stand and shoot, like Cathay, Dwarfs, one of the more immobile shooting factions, you could have issues. I do think that the mobile shooting factions, though, will be absolutely the best counter for KHORNE. So something like Wood Elves, obviously, Empire to a degree with their missile cavalry. We'll see about Kislev as well. It doesn't seem like their missile cavalry is insanely strong, but perhaps. Greenskins is an interesting one. Greenskins right now are the best face-first, heads-up faction, as well as having great tactical flexibility with excellent light cavalry and some other great units, but their lords are relatively squishy, so I just don't know. You could get lord sniped against KHORNE pretty hard, even with somebody like Grom the Paunch. And with that loss of leadership, I also don't think this is probably one of the few matchups in the entire game where Greenskins won't be able to just face rush and win in that aspect if the opponent decides to do the same thing. So that will be an interesting one. Greenskins will definitely have to play more of a skirmish-type approach, but I think they possibly can. We'll see. But regardless, theory crafting aside, I'm definitely very excited. Hopefully you guys are as well. A big thanks to Creative Assembly once again for providing the footage, and I'm going to be bringing you guys some more Cold War Warhammer 3 battles. I've got some minor settlement battles you may have seen on other channels. I'm going to be casting those, and I think a few sieges as well. Let me know down in the comments below which ones you guys would like to see first. But thank you all so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. Share with a friend if you found it useful. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.